It is an honor to speak in this event again. This is certainly one of the events that I look forward to every single year. This year, I think what I want to talk about is something related to online brand protection again, but I want to tackle some deeper issue as well. In the past event, actually in this year, I also was invited to moderate another panel in the Southeast Asian Forum. Talking about how do we actually stop the whack-a-mole approach in online brand protection. I think if you're interested, please do check out that particular panel. The panelists provide some really excellent answer. But what I find though is that we keep coming back to these same questions about when we try to deal with things online. It doesn't seem to me that we are able to find a solution. The problems that we see today are probably a problem that we see before as well. So in this keynote, I would like to share something of my personal view about one of the critical issues regarding online brand protection. And hopefully this will not be something, or actually it will not be something of a solution, but hopefully that will inspire you to think a little bit more about how do we actually resolve this issue in the future. So, and the topic of my sharing today in this keynote is called the elephant in the room for online brand protection. So basically, what I think is that at the moment, how we deal with online brand protection, basically we try to make friends with platforms. We sometimes file complaints or sue them. We often form different types of industry alliance. There are a bit too many at the moment. And sometimes we use vendors. We may change the vendors. In one of the sessions that I've done before, in this event, I actually proposed that we have to jump from a online monitoring and enforcement kind of approach into more of a 4 steps approach where we have better cooperation with platforms. We also needs to focus more on the O2O data sharing and channel management and things like that. I think we are observing that the online brand protection tactics are moving in that direction. However, I would say that there is still something missing at the moment. There's a giant elephant in the room. And for me, this elephant is quite important. So we always see that people will comment, I'll join too many BPA alliance, my BPA vendor offer no ROI, Shopee or whatever, a different platform refuses to take down this problem. They have to change the policy. They're not willing to change the policy and things like that. But what's the elephant in the room? In my own opinion, this has come to a terms called internet policy. And this is not something that I think we tackle or think about too much. So what do I mean by internet policy? Well, on the policy and law side, there are various different laws and policies like data privacy law, custom law, trade laws, platform policy belongs to every single different platform, they may vary in certain degree, and we have copyright laws and maybe various other world cybersecurity laws and all that. So these are the laws, but are these the internet policies? Well, I would say they are all related, but in making internet policy, there are really 2 types of main ways to making policy. What we talk about are mainly government regulation. So government regulation are good in a way that it is measurable, it offer more clarity, it offer lower risk for the platforms because they only need to follow whatever government policy in that particular country, and they have a clear line of what they should take down against what they should not do. And the last one would be prosecution. If you don't have a law, then you can't prosecute. So there's a limit into what you can actually do. So in some way, you can say that government regulation is a better way to go. In the other hand, self-regulation normally address issue beyond regulation because if Alibaba, for example, they have some platform governance policy. It does not necessarily need to be based upon a particular law. It could be just their terms and condition that something should not be done. So in that sense, it's more agile and will work consistently across different countries in most of the time as well. So is government regulation better? Is it a better way to make the policy required for us to be effective in tackling online brand protection? I would say no, mainly because we have to at least take away a few of the items in the government regulation side. For example, measurability. Measurability is it in itself can be done via self-regulation as well. And the other problem about measurability through government regulation is that if let's just say that the government mandate that I don't like a lot of infringement in US, for example, and all the if the platform receive complaints, they have to take down the complaints within X hours. So what will trigger would be that the platform will then tighten the rule to make decision within the requirement defined by the government and in order to meet that particular time requirement, then they are less likely to spend time to look deeper. So measurability, not so much. And clarity is also something that I think we should take out as well, because more often than not, that a government regulation will make things less clear, because the regulation cannot keep up with the latest form of attack by the infringers. So the other thing that we have to add, though, is that if you are relying on self-regulation, then it will create some controversy for the platform, because why do a platform take down certain things? For that, what's the regulation behind it? What's the reasoning? So it is actually less desirable for platforms to use self-regulation. It's easier for them to be relying on government regulation. But on the other hand, if we are relying on government regulation, there are also freedom of speech issues that we have to consider. And lastly, the whole over there is that the issue about addressing issues beyond regulation are so important, because the internet moves so fast that the agility, the ability to address various different issues should be getting heavier weight as well. So all in all, I think self-regulation might be a little bit better from this angle. So if we look into this kind of policy and the paradigm that we just looked at, there are two conflicts that we have to resolve. From a brand owner's perspective, we always think about this policy and regulation from a perspective that how does this policy benefits or limit my brand protection efforts. On the other hand, from the platform perspective, they always look into this policy from the risk perspective. What's my compliance? If this particular request go beyond the government policy, then it present higher risk for me. Should I do it? So this conflict, how do we actually resolve this? In my opinion, this is not necessarily a conflict, but there's certain things that we have to remember. Now, let me illustrate this problem by giving you an example. We're working with a really well-known brand in China. This is not a real case. I don't want to disclose who they are, but let's just say that the infringing product is actually selling to Korea. And let's just say that this product is a safety camera that they find a lot of fake safety camera. The customer own trademark on camera, but not safety camera per se in that particular market for whatever reason. Now we know that by just looking at the listing, we know that the platform knows that, the infringer knows that, everyone knows this is a direct infringement. There's no uncertainty about this. But for platform who strictly follow government regulation, most likely they would not take it down because you don't have safety camera as your trademark. But platforms that rely more on their own terms and policy would have taken it down. Now, and we see some platforms really do that. They would not follow strictly on that, and then apparently that's okay as well, because they can rely on their own terms and policy designed to tackle these kind of things as well. So how do we do this? How do we actually make policy that is more favorable to everyone else in the future? Now, Facebook actually released a white paper on advising on how internet policy should be developed, and I extract part of what they recommend. I'm not going to go through every single point of it because I have my own recommendation later on. But the principle layout by Facebook is quite important. One of the things that I think you can find in the white paper is that they realize that law and regulation is not effective, but they call for more regulation themselves. So there's this really intrinsic and very interesting conflict between what they want and what I think they see as the solution going forward. And so let me just take this Facebook recommendation and make it my own. Now, the first thing that I think what we should be thinking about is that we really have to stop thinking about law. So law can never keep up for online issues, and online issues are intrinsically cross-jurisdictional, and you can never be addressed by a single government, and law make by a single government. So instead, we really should be working together to encourage the government to develop guidelines, not law, or regulation guidelines to lower risk for the platforms, but maintain flexibility for self-regulation to actually works. And the second one is that really stop. This is quite important. I'm speaking more towards the brand owners now. One of the key problem that I really see, and be honest about this, is we have to really think about volumetric takedown KPI. So I can understand that everyone have KPIs, and you have to make sure that whatever you put into a brand protection program is being considered as worthwhile. So most of the time, we will kind of decide that I have to take down like 10,000 per year, and then we have our sales or the vendor that we use to chase this number to prove that we are doing well. So the problem is that if we have a volumetric takedown KPI, then we are forever chasing these numbers. So when we tackle a large amount of infringement online, we and you can think about this from a vendor perspective. There's no reason for them to help you actually reduce the number of infringement on the platform, because the less infringement on the platform means they are unable to meet the KPI to start off with, and they probably earn less money as well. So if the infringement actually get reduced, then it creates the other problem, that because we have to keep with this volumetric KPI, we have to start chasing the gray areas that are not strictly infringing by some platform's definition. And by doing so, platform has to bear higher risk as well. So this high risk for the platforms to comply with your complaint reduce the appetite to have a more flexible self-regulation. So instead, we really should be working with your vendor and platform together to tackle issue by issue. We should be tracing a KPI where we are reducing or eliminating particular infringing type instead of calculating this by numbers alone. The other thing that I want to mention is that we should stop thinking about all this as a platform issue. If you think about how this all evolved, we have website before e-commerce become popular, and then Alibaba, JD, and all that become available. Then it become an e-commerce platform problem. Then this moves to GChat as we tackle the different platforms, and then move to social media, move to video streaming, and then it will move to something else. It is not a platform issue. It never will be a platform issue. We have to start thinking about online brand protection as a holistic internet-wide issue with multi-channel approach as well. So and by doing so, one of the key things that I want to mention is that currently I think a lot of the efforts for online brand protection rely quite heavily on relationship, whether you're as a brand owner, establish direct relationship with particular platforms, or whether your vendor has direct relationship with certain platforms. So relationship will never truly work. It is important. It's still important, but it has limitation. But this is a cross-platform issues. And the key things is that we really have to think about something like big data, cross-platform big data sharing. How do we actually create data together to pinpoint where issues are? And when we know where the problem is, and then be open-minded about sharing this in a way that it does not violate privacy law, then we can really try to resolve this technology age issue using technology and not relationship. The other thing that I want to mention is we have to stop thinking about responsibility, whether this is the blame game for the platforms or the law or something like that, but think more about incentive. How do we actually encourage self-regulation, knowing that self-regulation presents a high risk for the platforms? But we want them to self-regulate because self-regulation is way more flexible to tackle internet problems. So, and how do we create third-party system like an ombudsman system that work outside the platform to minimize their risk of being complained against them? So there's a lot of things that we can talk about, but changing our mindset from thinking about whose responsibility it is into how do we actually incentivize, some practical change would be quite important as well. So this is my sharing. Hopefully this will set up something for our discussion later on. We have a session talking about law, and we have a session I will be moderating talking about technology, using new technology. Hopefully this will be something everyone find interesting. Thank you very much.